Yeah, students, welcome to today's class. Okay, we will be continuing the yesterday's class. So today we will start with our topic, interpretation of scores. Okay, so for interpretation of the scores, which we're getting through by conducting a test, okay, they can be interpreted with the help of three things. The first one, statistical tables. Second one, rank order. Third one is frequency distributions. Okay, I would like to show you how the frequency tables would be. Yeah, if you can observe this particular slide, which is talking about so how statistically you can represent or present your scores. For example, if you have a student or students who have taken this and identified different type of fruits. For example, the fruit name, okay, and the tally number of students who have said answered correctly, that is total number of 2. So likewise, we're talking about banana, it is tally max. So each and every cross mark says it is 5. So when there is a cross mark, it is 5. So the total is 6. So this is how you can meaningfully represent them so that you get to know uh, the scores of particular representative sample. For example, you can have serial number, name of the students, okay, pass percentage. For example, if you're talking about so how many students are getting passed from school, then you can also talk about like girls percentage, pass percentage, and boys pass percentage. Okay, which is given in your books. Also, you can refer this. So this is how meaningfully and in a very simple and systematic procedure we can produce or we can give or place the data so that it can be statistically interpreted very easily. Okay, and the second method is the second method of interpretation of scores is by giving ranks. So as we know, when a student takes a test, okay, all the marks can be arranged according to the either increasing order or decreasing order. Okay, so as we know, rank order, we already talked about different systems where we talked about ranks. Okay, giving rank, placing a person better or topper at the top as we have in the results. Okay, first rank, second rank, third rank. For example, if you have 50 students, so what marks they are getting, so you can arrange them in a sequencing order, either in the descending or ascending order. Generally, we will arrange in descending order, means the topper would be at the first, followed by the least scored students, so that by looking at the particular arrangement or series of numbers or scores, we can easily interpret who have scored better or who is at a better position. The second one is the rank order. Then we can talk about the frequency distribution as we talked or as shown in the statistical table. So this is how you can also show them in frequency. For example, if I talked about name of a student, that is different. If I'm talking about the people who have scored marks from 85 to 100, or for example 95 and above. Okay, so I can have class of scores like 95 and above and number of students. Okay, as I given in the tally table, so I can represent them in the tally. So whoever is scoring 95 and above, I can place them under tallies, and at the last I can have a table or a column which talks about frequency. So how frequently, how many number of scores I have in 95. Okay, so that I can have, and this is how I can represent in terms of a frequency. So 95 and above, number of students and how many students are getting, so I can have at the last frequency and I can mention there. So this is how from 95 and above, from 85 to 94. So this is how I can have on the frequencies. Okay, then I can interpret scores based on norms. Okay, norm referencing scores. As we know, or we talked about norms. So as we discussed, a norm is a average performance of a representative sample. So based on norms, as you know, there are age norms, okay, age, grade norms, percentile norms, and standard norms. Okay, based on that norms also we can place or we can interpret data. Okay, who is average, who is above average, who is below average with regard to age, grade, okay, and the standard scores also. Okay, so this is called as norm referencing. Then we have another referencing which is called as criterion reference. Okay, criteria, as we talked about, there is a pre-decided condition. Okay, when I have a pre-decided condition, like in test scores, for example, if there is a set of questions or items which a person have to complete or answer correctly so that he can be predicted, or there is an assumption that he can answer the rest of the questions. So there is a criteria. Okay, so getting qualified with one set of or the starting set of questions so that they can be given or allowed to answer the rest of the questions. So that is called as criterion referencing. Okay, so we talked about interpretation of scores. So interpretation of scores is done or it is shown in three ways: statistical tables, table representation, rank orders, okay, placing the scores in the ranks. Then we have frequency distributions. Okay, I can have a class interval of marks 95 and above. I can have a tally marks of how many students are having or got the particular marks, and at the end I can give frequency, the number of students total number. So this is how we can represent, and we can represent or interpret scores based on norms, so norm referencing, and also based on certain predetermined conditions called as criterion referencing. Okay, after doing interpretation, so we need to report, that is called as report, right? Okay, so the scores what we're getting have to be interpreted based on the scoring criteria, which is already mentioned. Okay, as we place them in statistical tables or rank orders or using a norm, so we can give an interpretation that the student is either average or below average or above average. Okay, that has to be conveyed in a written report form, so that is called as report, right? Okay, so it has to be very clear, it has to be written in a very precise, okay, systematic manner, which is not making use of, okay, mode of terminology which the test taker cannot understand. So it should be in a simple terms, okay, trying to give the picture of the present psychological distress or the condition the person is going through, and also what are the recommendations for that. Okay, and next we will talk about the ethical issues in testing. Yes, definitely there are certain ethics in testing. Okay, as we are testing the persons or individuals, okay, we need to maintain privacy, because the matter or the data should be very, very confidential. Okay, unless and until the data is confidential, okay, we cannot, or the process of testing cannot be done, because we're talking about the person's emotions, their feelings, okay, their interest, etc. So whatever the data we are gathering as part of our psychological testing should be confidential, because it may create a more distress, or it can throw a person into stress, anxiety when the test results are not maintained privacy. Okay? So disclosing should not be there if you want to discuss what extent, and also with the consent, with the permission of the person, individual, with the informed consent. So you need to inform them, take their permission, and then only you can disclose. And also with whom the result should be disclosed should also be asked before from the test taker. Okay, and also confidentiality. So confidence of the responses also should be taken care of. Okay, So when test is being administered, okay, only a skilled professional trained psychologist is, okay, given permission to do the psychological testing, because it's not that you have just given a set of questions. If a person is answering them and you score them based on the scoring key yes and no, and if you get a number, so based on the number you're trying to interpret. No, we're talking or we are dealing with human beings, their emotions, their feelings, their interest. So it has to be done by a skilled person. Okay, so not everyone is eligible to go with psychological testing, as well as not everyone is allowed to purchase this psychological test. So it is the responsibility of the publishers also to maintain this particular responsibility, that they're not selling it to anyone. Okay? There are pre-required qualifications, skill, training. Only those people are eligible to buy the test, to conduct the test, and to give or interpret the results based on the manuals. Okay, so these are some of the ethics we should maintain while doing psychological test. Okay, so always privacy, confidentiality. Okay, skilled people, and especially when you're writing a report, it should be precise, okay, clear, and especially when you have to disclose the results, the informed consent of the person has to be taken. Then only you can disclose or discuss results with others. Okay, then we will continue for next topic, that is statistics. Okay, I would like to show you a slide so that you can get to know about statistics. So this is the definition of statistics. Okay. To make you understand better, so I'm trying to use slides wherever it is possible. Okay. So this is the definition of statistics. So statistics is defined as it is a science of collection, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of numerical data. Okay. So it's talking about collection, presentation, and doing analysis and interpretation of numerical data. Okay, as we know, when I administer test, I am collecting the data or a measure, then I'm trying to present them, okay, in a tabular form or in a meaningful way, and then I'm trying to make analysis and try to interpret the numerical data. As you know, when a person is taking a test, okay, it will give you some numerical data. Okay, so these are the four parts which particularly statistics is talking about. Okay, so it includes collection of data, presentation of data, analysis of data, and interpretation of data. Okay, then when you talk about statistics, there are two types of, okay, statistical measures. Okay, descriptive and inferential statistics. Okay, I try to show you the slide. So if you can see this particular slide, which is talking about, so this is the brief description about two types of statistical measures we have. descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Okay, so descriptive statistics is the one which is talking about organization. Okay, how you organize, summarize, simplify, and describe and present data. Okay, so descriptive statistics generally try to explain, okay, or describe, okay, about the qualities or the measures what a person is getting when they are administering the test. Okay, when we're talking about differential statistics, okay, it attempts to generalize from sample to the population. Okay, as we know, we have a selected representative sample of subjects. Okay, where we have taken or selected them through, okay, sampling techniques. As I said, there are different sampling techniques through which we try to select representative, the most representative limited number of the subjects from the entire population. As I said, if I have 10th grade students, there will be thousands of 10th grade students. As part of my testing, it's not possible to go and collect data from all the students. So for my convenient, okay, I try to go with a appropriate number which I can handle. So that selection from the entire 10th class students is called as sampling. The techniques are called sampling techniques. So when I take sampling, so descriptive statistics talking about trying to explain that. And when you're talking about differential statistics, so based on what measures I'm getting from representative samples, I can try to generalize, make inferences about the total population using inferential statistics. Okay, so this is called as generalized from sample to population. So under inferential statistics, hypothesis testing is also done, and I can make predictions about the entire population based on the measures which I'm getting from the selected representative sample. So this is about two types of statistical measures which are generally used in behavioral sciences like psychology. Okay, then we'll talk about role of computers. As you know, computers are used very extensively these days. Okay, so one cannot limit the role of computers. Okay, so the role of computers is very vital. They are used very widely. In the same way, computers are also used for our psychological testing also. Okay, as we know, when we do psychological testing, we administer a test. Okay, we collect the scores of measures of what we are trying to test. For example, if it is an intelligence test, so I have intelligence scores. So when I use these particular scores, okay, when I feed them computers, or if I have a software can handle this particular, okay, scores can interpret the meaning in a very meaningful way. Okay, for example, we have statistical packages like Microsoft Excel. So Excel is very popular and it is very well known and well used in our everyday day-to-day life. Okay, actually, Microsoft Excel is a worksheet. Okay, it allows you to do basic mathematical computations or basic mathematical measures. Okay, if I have a set of scores with me or measures with me, okay, I can, okay, calculate, okay, descriptive statistics like central tendency, which talks about mean, median, mode, okay, and okay, etc. Like standard deviation, frequencies, okay, which are very common and available in my Microsoft Excel. Okay, but when I'm talking about other than the things, okay, or when I want to do a advanced analysis, then I need to go with the specialized packages. Okay, the specialized package is called as SPSS, which stands for, okay, statistical package for social sciences. Okay, it is designed by IBM So it is a software which is widely used for data analysis, okay, by researchers and also the psychologists, okay, to draw meaningful interpretation, especially as we talked about inferential statistics. Okay, the inferential statistics, as we know, they talk about calculating the mean differences. Okay, it's called as variability. Okay, so some of the differences of mean across different groups, okay, it can be calculated using the t-test. Okay, analysis of variance, ANOVA, analysis of covariance, okay, it's called ANCOVA, etc. Okay, difference in mean variations can be calculated to see whether the independent variable is having any effect on the means across the different groups. Okay, so these all inferential statistics can be carried or can be done using these statistical packages, especially SPSS. Okay, as it stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences. Okay, so it's very widely used in our psychology also. Okay, when I can give the information, when I feed all the information, all these codes, and when I run this inferential statistics, like I said, ANOVA, if I select the statistical, okay, function of ANOVA from the selection bar, and then if I run it, it is going to give me the entire report. Okay, it will arrange them in the frequencies. They give mean, median, mode, what is the standard deviation. Okay, and also it is trying to give me the inferential statistics also, that is variation of mean across different groups, whether it is okay significant or not. Also, it is going to give me the entire thing. So that is the beauty of this SPSS program. So they are very much used these days because manually there can be errors, there can be mistakes, time taking, and the correctness or the results cannot be okay taken or cannot be accepted, and it is to be checked and rechecked many times. But when I am making use of a computer and a software, so there is 10% that mistakes can be reduced or eliminated. So this is the reason, and also we need to deal with a number of measures when there are more number of subjects. When we're talking about research, where the sample and sampling scores can be hundreds of thousands, which is really impossible to handle manually. So there the role of computers will come into it, and especially making use of Excel for the basic calculations, and for advanced inferential statistics, I can make use of SPSS software. Okay, so this is the role of computers in our psychological testing, and also presentation, administration of test is also done, especially if it is a individual test. I can make use of psychological test on a computer because being presented on computers, it is also motivating, interesting for the present generation because they are very much familiar with handling with these computers because of mobiles. So they would like to touch or they would like to have this on this particular computer. So this is the role. So from manual conduction, so it's come now taking a shift to computers for online test. So our psychological testing can also be done if it is a paper pencil test or where the individual test can be conducted, and using these packages, okay, scoring can also be done without any confusion. It will give with the final interpretation, which can be taken as a report form. So it will automatically generate a report, okay, and I can take a printout and get to know. The only disadvantage is that when they are trying to give results or interpretations, it's may not be more based on the observation, but it is mainly based on the scores. So if I'm getting this much of score, it is trying to give me the more generalized report when compared to a clinician who is trying to analyze from different perspectives and try to give a very comprehensive psychological report. So that is the only disadvantage of making use of computers in psychological testing. Okay, so because of time constraint, we are trying to cover maximum today. Okay, then we will talk about. Then we will try to talk about block 4, which particularly talks about different types of tests. Okay, so under different types of tests, we have intelligence test, aptitude test, and personality test. Okay, so we will try to look at the intelligence definition so that you can understand better. Yeah. So this is what intelligence is. Okay, intelligence is our ability to learn from our experiences. Okay, to solve problems and to use that particular knowledge to adapt to new situations. Okay, so getting adjusted to new situations is also intelligence. Okay, problem solving ability is our intelligence. Okay, so different psychologists have come up with different definitions. Okay, so based on that, this is how we can describe intelligence as it is our ability to learn from the experiences, solve problems, okay, use that knowledge to adapt to new situations. Okay, intelligence test. So intelligence test is a method for assessing a person's mental ability through the comparison of others. As we know, intelligence have different dimensions. So all the dimensions has to be taken care. Okay. So during the process of standardization, test construction, so okay, so all these things would be taken in different domains. Someone is saying it's a new experience, someone is saying the problem solving ability, someone is saying, so how will you get adjusting new situations? So all these areas are domains of this particular psychological construct called intelligence is taken care, and all the questions or statements will be introduced or they are written down so that they get a comprehensive idea about the complete intelligence. So we need to assess the ability by administering the test. So when you administer a test, okay, based on, as we said, there are certain norms. So when you talk about intelligence, so when we are getting exposed to experience, so this is how our intelligence is changing or improving. So it has to be interpreted with respect to our age. So a person's IQ at one particular time may be different when you're talking about a different age person. So this is how we need to make use of norms and we need to come up with intelligence, testing and scoring and interpretation. Okay. As we know, psychometric approach is a method of studying intelligence that emphasizes score of an IQ test. Okay. Then we will try to know what is this IQ. Okay. Generally, IQ is given as a formula. IQ is equal to MA by CA into 100. Okay, if you can see this particular slide, okay, so one may wonder, as intelligence talking about n number of things, someone is saying, how will you get adjust to new situations, how you act purposefully, okay, all that. So how will a person can be calculated about his intellectual ability. So this is how Stern in the year 1912 have given, okay, a concept called intelligence quotient, which he defines as the ratio of person's mental age to their chronological age, and when it is multiplied by, okay, now the mental age is the intellectual ability or intellectual capacity of a person than the chronological age. And what is the, okay, the general age of a person? Okay, so how will I know the mental age? So based on letting a test. So what is his level and what is his age? So MA by CA into 100. So when I try to do this, when I have his mental age, okay, at what level he is, okay, by administering a test, if I know his mental age, then is natural age or the chronological age into 100. So that is going to give me IQ level. So based on that IQ level, I can make an interpretation with regard to the age. So age norms, okay, grade norms also, and based on the standard scores also. Okay, for example, if I have a subject or a person of age 6, okay, and I need to know what is his mental age. Is he up to that age or is he behind or is he ahead of his age group? Then I try to calculate that and I'm trying to get the IQ level. So when I try to interpret this IQ level, so this IQ level is either placing the person at average intellectual ability, that is 90 to 110 IQ, or is it above that, or is it below, which is called as below average intellectual abilities. So this is how I can test the intelligence of a person. Okay, so this formula is very much used for our intelligence test. IQ is equal to MA by CA into 100. Okay, we try to look at different psychological tests. A slide. So basically, when you're talking about psychological test, yeah. So this is what given in your textbooks. So when you want to try, when you want to classify intelligence tests, they can be broadly divided into either individual test or group test based on the administration. Okay, I can either conduct an individual test to a person, okay, to a single person, okay, especially or generally in clinical settings where I have taken or when a subject comes to me, so I try to administer a test individually. So that is a individual test. And when there is a purpose of doing or conducting psychological tests across the group, for example, many people, then it is called as group test. Okay. So when it is conducted on a single person individual, when more number of people without any external disturbance or without affecting the test scores, okay, so such type of administration is called as group test. Okay, army alpha test, for example, certain tests which can be conducted, okay, at a time for more number of individuals, that is called as individual and group test. And also based on the content, for example, if the test is making use of language, it is called as verbal test. As we know, verbal, which make use of language, either written or spoken form, that is oral instructions, which requires or especially the written form. So such tests are called as verbal test. When there is no use of any spoken language, okay, maybe using symbols, signals, okay, signs, or a pattern, for example, standard progressive matrices test. Okay, it's called RSPM, Raven's progressive matrices test. which talking about patterns. Okay, there would be a pattern given, and the missing pattern, part of the pattern will be missing, and the subject has to select which particular part or which among the given options is fitting or completing that particular pattern. So when my subject is trying to pick the correct pattern to complete the given pattern as an option answer. So this is how I'm trying to know his intellectual abilities. Okay. So here, no written part or no written instructions, no written statements are given to the students, and there is no requirement of language. So such tests are called as non-verbal tests, where there is limited or no use of a particular language. This is called as non-verbal test. Okay, and also there are certain performance tests where it requires manipulation of tasks. When I have given them a task, they need to manipulate, they need to try to analyze the given task, and they should come up with a task completion, that is performance. So that also doesn't require okay much of language, but a clear-cut instructions, oral instructions should be given. So this is how, based on the test material, it can be either verbal, which make use of language, and also it can be non-verbal, where there is complete elimination of language or there no use of language at all, and also a task manipulation or completion of task, which is called as performance test. Okay, so this is how our psychological test can be classified based on administered and based on the materials. Okay, for example, under individual tests, we have course block design, Alexander Paslov, pattern drawing test. Okay, pattern drawing, as I said, SPM and all that. Okay, picture construction test. Okay, these all are independent test or individual test. Okay, Bean assignment test and Stanford Binet test. Okay, as we talked about, individual tests are used to know the present condition, especially in a clinical settings, with more focus on the person. Okay, when it requires in-depth, okay, precise knowledge of the person, so these individual tests are conducted. Okay, when you're talking about the group test, it can be conducted, okay, in a group with least influence of other people presence. Individual test is avoiding or it is making a person private or in a selected setting so that other people presence is not felt or there is no influence of other people. And there are certain tests which doesn't get affected by presence of other people. So they are called group test. Under group test, we have Army Alpha, Army Beta test. Okay, so these are some of the test, group test. So Army General Classification test is also one of the group test. So as you know, when people go for this Army selections, okay, they make them sit as a group. They try to administer this particular test at one time. Then they come up with the scores. Then they try to interpret the results, and they will ascertain who will fit into this particular Army jobs. So this is generally seen in that situations. Okay. Then in terms of verbal, non-verbal, we have talked about. Okay. So this is about our intelligence test. Okay, then we will continue with our next topic, that is aptitude test. Okay. So these are the different types or components of aptitude. Okay. So if you have to define aptitude, it is defined as, okay, the innate capacity of a person, okay, in a given line of endeavor, such as particular art or school subject or professional. So it is a innate ability. So at the time of birth, what a person is acquiring, okay, is taken as the ability, aptitude. Okay, so aptitude can be defined as an inclination, a tendency, or a natural ability. Okay, capacity for learning and general suitability. Okay, and this can be improved with training. Okay, so there are different components of this aptitude. Okay, so and each general aptitude test would be considering these are different areas of our aptitude. Okay, and there can also be specific aptitude test also. For example, clerical aptitude test, okay, a separate test. But if you're talking about a general aptitude test, you try to address all the sub areas of this particular test form. Okay, for example, verbal, as you know, just we talked about verbal, so it measures critical verbal reasoning, importance in sales and marketing. So they're also talking about where this particular verbal ability is used. Okay, it measures the verbal. So how good the person is making use of vocabulary, language. So it is talking about verbal. Then numerical. So this is specifically significant in banking, insurance, or related fields. The one who is good at numerics. Okay, as we talked about calculations. So we are making use of certain statistical, okay, packages for doing analysis. Some people are very good at, okay, doing the analysis. So numerical analysis, the one who is good at doing the numerical analysis. So generally, they can fit into banking, insurance, and related fields. So numerical ability, verbal ability, or verbal aptitude. Okay. Then clerical. As we know, clerical is the ability of a candidate to notice mistakes or to find out the odd one out if they have a particular set of measures where they can easily or where they can good at finding the odd one out and trying to do this job. Like, for example, we know clericals. Okay, for getting into these particular positions, so there is clerical aptitude positions. Okay, clerical aptitude test is also done, which is a sub part or component of aptitude test. Then sensory. So this test is for people where coordination of color, sound, visual, okay, is important, such as textiles, interior decoration, automobile industry, etc. Okay, where they are good at, okay, sensations. Okay, so these are certain limited areas of our aptitude. Yes, there are different types of aptitude tests. Okay, for example, motor and manual test. Okay, differential aptitude test battery. Okay, multiple aptitude test battery and special aptitude test battery. Okay, so this is how you can check whether a person is good at, okay, motor abilities, or which is called as mechanical ability. Okay, and differential aptitude test talking about different aptitudes as we have different parts. So this is talking about multiple aptitude test also, and special aptitude test is talking about specific aptitude. Okay, under differential aptitude we have David battery of differential abilities, a test which talking about all these areas which give us a clear picture of which particular area, for example, whether the person is good in verbal ability, numerical or clerical ability, and based on this particular scores, we can advise, especially students and okay, college going or like the one who is about to get into profession. So based on this particular abilities, we can give a prediction based on the results whether how good they fit into the jobs they are about to take. So this is the beauty of this aptitude test, and also if one is good at one particular aptitude, so it can be improved further also by giving proper training. For example, the best thing is the teaching aptitude test. So before teaching or getting into this profession, so certain tests are conducted based on that aptitude. So it can be given or it can be improved through formal training as Bachelor of Education, etc. Okay? So this is about our aptitude test. And finally, we have our types of interest also, interest scales, okay, how they like, how a person individual likes or dislikes. Okay? Yes. So these are about interest inventories. So interest, simple, likes and dislikes of a person. So personality orientation towards the world of it. So what are the likes and dislikes, and especially they are talking from the work point. Okay. So when you are good at predicting job satisfaction, okay, if they have interest, so they show good job satisfaction. For example, based on their likes, if one particular person have selected. We talked about aptitude based on their abilities. If a person is selecting, so he will be doing or successful at work. And when we talk about interest, so what liking and dislike a person have. So if a person likes that particular job, so he is going to have a good job satisfaction. Okay, it's talking about state of satisfaction, level of satisfaction when they have interest. So likes and dislikes and their orientation towards a particular job or work. Okay, like strong occasional interest inventory, self-directed search, and career occupational preference system interest inventory. COPS. So all these are interest schedules where they are conducted to know what a person is interested. Okay, it is also Cudel reference record, Thurston occasional interest schedule. Okay, strong occasional interest plan or inventory as we talked about. So to have interest, to check how the person is interested, so this particular interest schedules can be done or this administration can be done to know how satisfied a person is going to be in the job is about to take up. For example, if you're talking about Thurston occasional interest schedule, which have okay different areas like commercial interest, athletics, okay, descriptive, physical science, legal, academic, biological, art. So which particular area is interested in or where is having like or dislike. So based on that, we can yes, give accurate guidance or academic guidance in choosing subjects based on the subjects the further job expansion. Okay, so maybe after this we are left with one particular thing called as personality test, last topic. Okay, so we try to look at that. As you know, personality can be defined as okay unique structure or unique characteristics which make up a person. So this is complete picture of our psychological testing as we are coming to the last part of psychological test. Okay, so we try to look at it. So, so personality test. Okay, there are many types of tests. Generally, each category of tests are related to the dominant theory of time. Okay, so personality have to define a unique structure or unique dispositions a person have. So, or in general terms, you have to define. Okay, uh, how a person interact, how a person dresses. Okay, so a general overall description of a person can be called as a personality, derived from word persona, which means mask. So, what impressions we create on other people? Okay, if I talk or if I say take a name, so what comes to your mind? So, what impressions they created on us, like their unique way of dressing, talking, interacting. So all these will be personality traits, and the overall type, introvert, extrovert. So that will be the personality styles of a person. So by administering this test, okay, we are trying to know what type of personality a person is having. Okay, in the personality test we have okay personality inventories or questionnaires where statements would be given. Okay, as we already talked about, okay, statements, items, item construction. So we know, so items are constructed across all the areas, and we know about item pooling, so how items are selected and all that. So items or statements written form are called as inventories. So the best example is MMPI, okay, Minnesota multifaceted personality inventory. And I repeatedly talked about, especially when we talked in terms of practicality, where we talked about making use of very lengthy questions. So this is okay, a inventory which is having 567 questions. So bit lengthy statements would be there, and the person has to answer them. So based on that, scoring also will be done, and interpretation would be given. So certain inventories where statements would be given, and also there are certain personality tests which talks about projection. They're called projective tests. Okay, so under projective test, so this particular Rorschach block is very famous. Okay, as they're talking about ink blots, okay, not well defined. Okay, some multicolored, some black and white, and by showing the pictures or ink blots, so we try to ask the person to tell what it appears to be, what it looks to be. Can they give any description about the blots? For example, if you can see this particular picture, it could be perceived based on the internal state of mind, their motives, unconscious conflicts, and all that. They try to interpret. Okay, it appears different, and they try to interpret based on their internal conflicts, unconscious. Okay, conflicts and all that. So this is how when they start telling. So based on the general features and especially the specific details what they're trying. So we try to go with scoring. So each and every detailed would be given certain marks. So already scoring manual would be there. So based on that, what they're trailing and what impressions they're giving. So based on that, scoring would be done. So based on the scoring, as we know, interpretation would be given, and we try to know the personality. Okay, but project test very very important, as I said. So scoring is done based on the location, like determinants, forms, and all that. Okay, so based on what they are telling us, so scoring would be done and try to give interpretation. Okay, thematic processing test. Okay, it is also card based test where cards will be shown and asked to come up with a story. Okay, so this is how there are different projective tests which come under our okay non-verbal or where we make use of cards, pictures, and they're trying to elicit responses. Okay, the internal responses from the subject or the test taker, and they try to come up with interpretation about different personality types. So this is about our personality tests. Okay, so either they can be inventories, the questionnaire forms, or they can be in terms of our projective test like Rorschach Inkblot, TAT, okay, where there is no use of language, there is no statement. Okay, pictures would be shown. Okay, some pictures, for example, a card would be empty. Just we can assume. If it is empty, also the person is trying to tell his internal conflict motives. So this is how we come to know about the person's internal conflicts. And through projection, they try to tell the stories, pictures, and all that. So there is a scoring procedure for that. So when we do scoring, so we come to know or assess personality test. So this is a brief introduction about personality and intellectual test. So with this, we have completed our course. Okay. So all the best from my side. So you go through the material which is given to you. For example, I try to give a brief introduction about okay testing and all that. For each and every subcategory, the names of the test are given in the booklet or our material. So you try to go through the material so that you will come to know about each and every type of test, each and every single type of test they have given, and they're trying to address each and every test. So all the best, and so with this we will end our class. So we try to address and cover entire syllabus or the course syllabus.